Hey, I'm Darren. I'm Creator61 with my tools, toys, tips and tactics to help you become better creators each and every day. Today, let's have a look at camera cages, and in particular camera cages for the Canon R50, my favorite camera. I've got a cheap and cheerful brand by Neewer, the Neewer camera cage for Canon R50, plus I have a well-known trusted brand, the SmallRig 4214 camera cage for the Canon R50. So let's put both of these camera cages up against each other, head to head, and see which one comes out best. Will it be the SmallRig cage, the 4214, or could it be the new kid on the block, the Neewer cage for Canon R50? Let's find out. Both of these are quality cages and made from, well, I'm going to say camera cage quality aluminium. They seem to be made from one piece, and both will do an amazing job sitting on your camera. But let's put them head to head. First of all, let's talk about weight. The weight of the SmallRig cage is 128 grams, whereas the Neewer cage comes in at around 152 grams. So it's a win for the SmallRig cage being a little bit lighter, and I think I know why. Have a look here. Right here on the edge is our grip, and that grip doesn't quite go around as far as it does on our Neewer cage. So that is something to consider if weight is an issue with your cage. Now, both of these cages use 3 mounting points for connecting your camera into the cage to make it nice and secure. Both use the standard tripod screw, and also they hook up to your strap holds on your camera. So both do this and have a 3-point mounting system which will keep the camera secure inside the cage. There'll be no twist, there'll be no wobble, and that's exactly what you want. No movement in there whatsoever. But the Neewer cage does it a little bit differently. With the Neewer cage, we have these mounting points on the top. So the screws come in from the top down onto the camera. Whereas on the SmallRig cage, these are on the side. And here, they're a little bit fiddlier. I'll have a video of side by side of mounting the R50 in both of these camera cages. Now we have our side handle capability. We have a Nato Rail, and a Nato Rail is this on the side that allows us to very quickly and easily put a handle onto our camera cage, so we have a nice wide grip and we have more stability in holding the camera. Now, Neewer does a little bit differently. With the Neewer cage, we mount it from the bottom. So on the bottom, we have our Nato Rail there. SmallRig does it the other way around. SmallRig, we slide the cage down into it. This could be a safety feature. So if this handle isn't done all the way up, that cage or your camera is not going to fall out. Whereas with the Neewer cage, we slide that in from the top, and that could fall out, causing a very expensive break of your very expensive Canon R50. Okay, so both of these cages come with an onboard tool. With the SmallRig cage, there are more magnets on there, and the cage is actually formed around this key to stop it from falling out. On the Neewer cage, it's just magnets that hold it in, and unfortunately, I've lost my tool somewhere out in the field. So Neewer, if you are watching this, where can I get a new onboard tool for my Neewer cage, please? So I'd say that might be a little bit of a hindrance for the Neewer cage. The good thing is, this tool does work on the Neewer cage. Now, if you're a shooter that loves to use your camera strap, well, you can still use your camera strap with a camera cage. Both of these cages allow you to use your camera strap as if it was directly connected to your camera. So we both have our camera strap holds right on the side there and on the other side as well. Me personally, I prefer not to have a camera strap for using my Canon R50. So one of the reasons why you buy a camera cage is for not only protecting your camera, but also for convenience of putting this onto a tripod, for instance. So if you're somebody who has an Arca-Swiss style tripod, and I'm going to leave a link down below to one of my favorite tripods that has an Arca-Swiss style plate, you can use one of these camera cages that has the Arca-Swiss connection on here. It doesn't cost any extra, and it's a great included additional feature so you can quickly mount and dismount your camera from your tripod. So what happens if you don't have an Arca-Swiss style tripod? Well, you can still mount this camera cage on your tripod. On the SmallRig cage, we have 3 by 1/4-20s and 1 by 3/8-16, and on the Neewer cage, we have 4 by 1/4-20 and 1 by 3/8-16. So not a deal breaker, but both have the ability to mount onto a tripod that does not necessarily have a Arca-Swiss style plate. That can be good because I do like to use these little things from Zhiyun. These are the Transmount system for mounting quickly your camera onto a tripod or a gimbal and swap those cameras out and about very, very quickly. In fact, see that there on top of my other tripod is one of those, and let me just grab. Let me just put this onto my R50. So I've put one of those on there, and very quickly and easily clip, that is on my Canon R50. So we do have the provision for those to go onto the bottom of both of these cages, and it is a very quick and easy screw mount with the 3/8-16 on there, and once again on the SmallRig 3/8-16 there. So we do have that ability to mount additional hardware using the included mounting holes on the bottom of these cages. Both cages have the ability to add a top handle, and the top handle allows for not only additional accessories to be mounted, but it also allows you to hold your camera in another way to get those low to the ground shots, or to get those sweeping motion shots that are so desirable these days. Both of these camera cages allow you to do this very, very easily. And a good thing to note, the SmallRig handle that I have here for the top handle is compatible with both the Neewer cage and the SmallRig cage, of course. Now, if you're a vertical content creator, can you use a camera cage to create vertical content? Well, SmallRig has got your back. They allow you to use a top handle like this on the SmallRig cage with the RE locator pins, and that is nice and easy to do. And the Neewer cage does it a little bit differently. If you're a vertical content creator and you're using a Neewer cage, you kind of have to put your top handle on sideways in order for it to work, whereas with the SmallRig cage, you could actually have the handle out the back, making it a little bit more, let's say, natural. So you can still create vertical content with your handle here, but it's more like a side handle, a side grip. You wouldn't be able to use this with the Nato Rail handle because it mounts where the Nato Rail is. So maybe not a deal breaker, but something to consider if you are a vertical content creator. And of course, both cages have plenty, and I mean plenty, of access to your door for your battery and your SD card, so there's no issue with either of these cages. The SmallRig and the Neewer cage are going to be great at protecting your camera. Of course, the Canon R50 is, well, it's an entry-level camera, but your hard-earned money needs to be protected. One thing, when we are mounting our Canon R50 into the cage, I want you to have a look at this here. This is where our buttons are on the R50. So it's a little bit of a fiddle to get into pressing the movie record button, for instance. Whereas, let's put this into the Neewer Cage, and if you have a look here at the profile, the cage runs around the front of the buttons, so you've got plenty, and I mean plenty of access to those buttons without any kind of hindrance. So, will you go for the Neewer Cage with full access to those buttons, or would you be looking at protection with the SmallRig 4214, completely protecting those buttons so they don't get accidentally pressed or damaged if you drop your camera? So while we're talking about holding your camera cage and your Canon R50, as you know, some people do report that the grip hold here on the R50 is not that big and it is a little bit hard to hold. I don't personally find any problem with it. I want you to have a look at this part here on the SmallRig cage. The grip goes around partially of the Canon R50 grip. It adds a little bit of additional grip hold, but you might have bigger hands or you like a really good grip on your camera cage. Have a look at the Neewer cage. The Neewer has this metal part that does go right around. It gives extra depth and a little bit of extra width. So that might be considered for your purchase of the Neewer cage. Will you go for the Neewer with that additional grip, or will you go with the SmallRig that has a partial grip around the side there? Both are still going to do a great job in what they do. Okay, we're really flying through these details, so thank you for sticking with me. Let's talk about cold shoes. So a cold shoe is a spot where we can mount additional accessories like microphones, lights, or monitors. On the SmallRig 4214, we have what I'm going to call an encapsulated cold shoe mount. So it does not go all the way through. Great if you are mounting something and you don't have to really line it up. You push it in, you lock it down, and you know it's right to go. So let's look at the Neewer solution here. The Neewer solution has this cold shoe that goes all the way through. It can be a little bit tricky to use, to put a monitor or a microphone in there and make sure that it's locked down tight. So which cage will you go for? The SmallRig cage with its encapsulated cold shoe mount, or the Neewer with the cage ability to slide in microphones, lights, or monitors from the front and the back? It's up to you. I know which one I prefer. I'm going to give my recommendation to the Neewer cage if you are on a budget. SmallRig and Neewer, great cages and great products, but purely for the additional hold for my hand, I'm going to give a few little extra points to the Neewer cage. Plus, I have access to those buttons as well. Neewer, fantastic work taking a cage and making it better. And if you want to see more about my review of why we need a camera cage, well, have a look at the original video up here for my SmallRig cage. Thanks for watching. It's been a lot of fun making this video for you.